What's going on, guys, and welcome back to episode number 45 of RizzoCast. I'm Steven Rissotto, and today we have a very special edition of the show. And for the first time in RizzoCast history, we will be splitting up this episode because it's so good into two different parts. So, episode number 45 will have two different parts talking San Francisco Giants baseball, a spring training preview with myself, with Giants beat writer for SFB Taylor Wirth, and with Giants fan on Twitter, Brooks Knudsen, who is covers the team for at SFGiantsFan. So enjoy the show, everybody. And again, episode number 2, part 2, will come right after this with questions that you guys sent in for the show. So be sure to wait around, and we have some hot takes to share for you guys. So enjoy the show. And go ahead, subscribe, follow, do all that fun stuff, and enjoy. What is going on, everybody, and welcome. This is episode number 45 of RizzoCast. I'm Steven Rissotto, and we are joined today by two special guests. You guys already know Taylor Wirth. He's been on the show before. He is the beat writer for the SF Bay. He covers the San Francisco Giants, and he also covers the San Francisco 49ers. Taylor, welcome in.
Thanks for having me on again. I am now leading the RizzoCast world in appearances.
That is a true fact. And
He's
we also
up.
have – oh, go on. Go.
He's heating up, baby. One more and you're on fire.
Yep.
Yeah,
So.
there you go. He'd have 3 in a row. And you just heard from Brooks Knudsen, who is here. Brooks covers the San Francisco Giants for SFGiantsFans, which is a Twitter account that has gone viral in its history since 2007. Man, you had Twitter since 2007. Was
Wow.
like Twitter. What was going on in Twitter in August of 2007?
You know, I can't personally answer that. Alan Weibel, the guy who started the account, good buddy of mine, he got in on it way before anybody, Giants, anybody in the organization got on there. So he's definitely the one that takes credit for that. He got me in there at right before the 2014 season. That was a good year to get in. Definitely a good year.
Yeah, so you kind of took over the reins here, and here you are. And
Yeah. Him and I, he'll throw in some of the best one hitters, but I usually roll with the account most of the time. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah. So great news, guys. Pitchers and catchers have reported. They've been reported for a few days now. Full squad workouts are underway. We're ready to go in terms of baseball season. It's still in the COVID times, but we're trying to get a season in. Very optimistic about that. Taylor, of course, is covering the team. I guess we're all kind of covering the team in many different ways. So first thing, we want to, give your insight on baseball coming back. What does it mean? This was a weird offseason, of course. Taylor, we'll start with you. Did you miss baseball? Were you kind of caught up with what the 49ers were doing? Because I know you kind of cover the 49ers too. What's your thoughts on baseball finally being back and spring is here?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm more excited, obviously, this year than last year. Last year, it was fun, but it didn't feel like a normal season, obviously. How excited can you get for, a cup of coffee of 60 games?
unless you're a Dodgers fan.
Yeah. But I think this year is definitely more exciting because we're going to see, knock on wood, some normalcy, at least at some point during the season. And we have a full season. And for me personally, I do cover the Niners, and their season was over halfway through. So I didn't really have much of a interesting sports winter and fall. So I was definitely looking forward to baseball.
Yeah, should be an interesting team and an interesting division. Brooks, kind of a summary on the San Francisco Giants in Scottsdale. I know there's some question marks. We'll get into that a little bit later on, but what's kind of your overview in terms of the Giants reporting the camp this year?
It's easy being a Giants fan. It's easy being a Giants player. There's not a lot of pressure. There's no Trevor Bauer just came to your team. You're trying to win your first legit World Series since '88. There's none of that stuff. You just get to go out and play ball and, maybe go on a run, kind of what we saw last year, right? It's last year part 2 in a way, but with upgrades and hopefully more health as well, especially with the guys coming back that were already in the organization. But we'll get into that later. I think just if you're, thinking about the Giants' chances, okay, you look at this thing, it says 7% chance of making the playoffs. You see this thing, 1% chance of winning the World Series, whatever, who cares, right? If you can just kind of throw all that stuff aside and just watch these guys compete. Also, let's get some of these new guys, these guys that got robbed of their minor league season last year. I'm always keeping an eye on the minor leagues, seeing what they're doing. And really just you get hot, you see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. And I think this time of year is always so important because there's, the green grass again, the smell of the fresh grass, the crack of the bat. I mean, these are all sounds that we hear, over the course of 162 games, even more. But it just sounds so much better now without baseball, during the winter season. So here we are, of course. And the Giants are such an interesting team. They're in a division now with two very, very good teams. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But as you mentioned, there's a lot of new faces. And the Giants, as much as people, didn't really realize it, the Giants spent $61 million this year in free agency. Kevin Gausman, they brought him back. Tommy La Stella, the infielder, of course. Jake McGee on a 2-year deal. Anthony DeSclafani, another former Red, Alex Wood. Aaron Sanchez, his deal got made official. Kirk Casale, Matt Whistler, and John Breba. So this is a team that has a lot of new faces and a lot of interesting kind of anecdotes about them. Taylor, out of those guys, kind of who are you looking forward mostly to see, put on the uniform for the first time?
I think the additions with the most upside would come out of the rotation. Mm-hmm. The guys like Alex Wood, DeSclafani, guys like that, they have a nice floor in terms of how well they can produce. They're not, not saying that they're going to go out and be all-stars, but I think that they can at least be productive. And I think that's kind of their floor. And then this is the team that's kind of built to where a few of those guys who are viewed as kind of plug and play productive players, if they have breakout seasons, it could really carry the team farther than expected. So I think that, if the ball bounces their way with a few of these guys, I think they're definitely going to be propelled into contention more than we think.
Brooks, a lot of 1-year deals there. What do you think about that?
Ooh, I was seeing, I mentioned this on the Say Hey podcast with Say Hey Doug and Say Hey Rob.
Shout out.
Shout out. I was getting a lot of tweets and stuff showing up on my timeline. Another 1-year deal. The Giants do need to add a bunch of young top prospects to the 40-man roster this upcoming winter to protect them from the Rule 5 draft. Elliot Ramos, Sean Jelly, Seth Corey, just 5 other, guys in the top 30. It's just, something that I think most fans not even on their radar. They're not thinking about that. But Farhan, Harris, all these guys are going, we can't hand out a bunch of multi-year deals, even if Wood and DeSclafani said, I want 2 years or else I'm not coming. They're going to be, hey, man, like, we'll see how you do. You're coming back from injury or off, kind of a down year. But at the same time, they need to make sure they have this roster spot available for a lot of these guys. And granted, there's going to be some departures too. We'll get into that a little later as well. There's, start with Johnny Cueto. Is it probably, not going to see him back with the Giants next year. I mean, you could probably count on that. So his spot will go to like a Sean Jelly. But, it all has to line up. It's got to align that way. So 1-year deals make it much easier.
Yeah, the stars have to align for sure. And I think one thing we're seeing early here in spring training is the number of, and every team invites really interesting guys to camp that are not on a big league deal. And non-roster invitees is something the Giants have used to their advantage in the past. Ryan Vogelsong, of course, forever Giant, was a non-roster invitee. Craig Blanco, non-roster invitee. There seems to be a few of them that end up shining. Yeah, Andres Torres, Juan Uribe, non-roster invitee.
All my favorites.
We had to go there. But there seems to be a few of them that are interesting every single year. And we decided to pick out a few of them. We might overlap here. That's okay. I'll go first. I'm going to say not Sean Jelly, but he's interesting. Elliot Ramos. I want to go with Elliot Ramos because I think he's a guy we might see. Granted, Joey Bart is, kind of in the same category. We saw him last year, but I think Elliot Ramos is going to get a chance to see AAA pitching this year in the Pacific Coast League, although it's not called that anymore, but whatever.
Yeah.
And his problem's been staying on the field. We kind of know what's capable of him out there in center field, a guy who could also move to the corners. We have yet to see if he could stick in center, but I think a lot of people have high expectations for this guy. Maybe he slipped from the top prospect rankings in recent years, but there's still a lot of raw talent there. So I would say Ramos is the guy to look for here in spring training, see if he could hit big league pitching. Because if anything happens, if there's a trade to be made, if somebody goes down with an injury, Ramos is a guy who I could see starting every day in the outfield for this team. Taylor, what do you think? Who's your guy?
I'm going to piggyback off you, and I think that I think the prospects who are on the cusp, the guys who are really, really close, I think those are probably the most important. And then I'd also kind of like to lump all the top prospects together, because last year, with it being a lost season for development, I think those are the guys who have obviously been impacted the most. So I think that in terms of spring training, non-roster invites, those are the guys that will have the most attention by far.
Brooks, what do you think?
There's so many ways you can go with this one, because there's 45 non-roster guys, or it seems like. I almost want to pick two guys. This is only recent, but I'm really interested in seeing Shun Yamaguchi. I think that guy, because he's going to have a opt-out date at the end of spring training, they're going to give him a good kind of bulk of innings, I think. Early, they'll, just he'll be one of the, 5 or 6 guys you see right off the bat in that rotation. You know how they're going to mix in an Anthony Banda in there. He might actually have an opt-out too, because he doesn't have
in terms of sorry for cutting in.
Sure,
in terms of Yamaguchi, he spoke today, and he was asked if if he doesn't make the 25-man roster, is he going to opt out and pursue something else? And he kind of responded with his goals to make the 40-man roster. So that leads me to believe that if he does at least make the 40-man roster, he's okay with maybe starting in AAA if it comes to that.
That is that definitely, see, it makes my pick look even better now.
Yeah.
No, I had no idea. I missed that. So good reporting there. He's a guy that they're you heard, they're stretching out to help out in the rotation, which is a good idea, because you got these Tropianos, Yamaguchi, maybe Anthony Banda, who is out of minor league options. He might have an opt out as well to say, add me, or I'm going to go join Pirates or something. I don't know, but yeah, I know, right? I need an opportunity. So if the Giants aren't giving it, these guys might move on. But yeah, I think as terms of, if I want to break it into pitcher or hitter, I'd go Yamaguchi there. So I think he has a chance. The Giants don't have a ton of depth in starting pitching. You think they do, but they really don't. Not as much as a lot of teams do. And then, I'm just interested in a guy like Will Wilson, who is kind of projected to arrive. I don't know, Fangraphs has him arriving mid-2022. So he might be in the mix for a call-up next year. So I just like to see these guys, see what they can do, knowing that he's not going to make the camp, just try to ball out for 2 weeks and then be cut down, but we'll see.
Yeah, Will Wilson, the former Angel that was pretty much bought for $20 million, I think, in exchange for Zach Cozart or something.
12 million, something like that.
Oh yeah, it was a little bit less than 20.
Forever Giant, Zach Cozart.
Yeah,
Zach Cozart, exactly.
Hey, he didn't strike out once. Cozart.
No.
He didn't. He was a very good Giant. So Zach Cozart has his name in history.
O for O.
O for O. So let's get into some storylines, and I know we're very quick to looking at guys prime for career years, and I think this is a team full of complementary players, and the cliche in spring training, we all know what it is, right? Best shape of my life. I mean, we hear it time and time again. I don't think anybody's said it yet.
I wish I could experience that.
I don't think anybody's said it yet in Scottsdale. Maybe they have. I don't know, but there's so many storylines that I feel can attest to this Giants team. So many interesting ones. Brooks, if you had a storyline, to kind of go based off of, a preview for this year, someone who may be impactful, maybe a part of the team that's interesting, what is kind of your main storyline as you look forward to some of these spring training games?
I hope I don't step on one of your guys' picks, but it's kind of it's not the most specific. We all saw the Giants just missed the playoffs last year for reasons a lot will attribute to the ninth inning. I think that is my focus. I think that's Farhan and company's focus is, they're going to be the last team out of 30 that actually picks a closer. They're going to keep their options open. They brought in McGee, and then you got Reyes Morante coming back from injury. So those guys are your like de facto, it's got to be those guys, right? But that's not always going to be the case. And then he brings up out of the blue, okay, Tyler Rogers might be my guy. And it's just, there's going to be a lot of guys kind of gunning for, hey, at least make me half of the ninth, if not the whole ninth. There's tons of relievers they added this offseason. It's crazy. Even some of the non-roster guys that I could have picked any of those Jimmy Sherfies or, even an Aaron Sanchez. Don't rule him out to all of a sudden be your 98 mile per hour one inning guy in the ninth. Could happen. So I'm going to be having my eyes on that storyline. What is the overall feeling going into opening day as who can they trust in the ninth inning and who can get strikeouts in the ninth inning? Because they weren't striking guys out. The ball was going over the wall in the ninth. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
and Rob
Gabe
Drake's
Kapler, I feel like
listening.
is a really.
oh God!
I was gonna say, I think
never
Gabe
say that
Kapler-
again. Never say that name again.
Gabe Kapler might be a really good poker player because he'll never tell you like what he's gonna do.
Yeah.
He's
He'll just say, just stay tuned and I'll tell you when I pick a guy to put into the ninth.
Are you being robotic on purpose?
Yeah. It's like you're listening to him on Zoom, right?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, and he's got the protein shake in front of him, just absolutely jacked, wearing one of those really tight black Under Armour shirts. What a guy,
Yes.
Gabe Kapler. Taylor,
Yes, just like Bochy.
Yeah, but just like Bochy.
Same body.
Same
body, not the same mind though. Okay, take it.
What do you think, Taylor?
I think in terms of storylines, I don't know how. I think the biggest storyline just has to be Buster Posey.
Who?
Buster
Who's that?
Posey.
Is that new catcher they brought in, right?
He's a non-roster invite.
Was he on the Reds? Buster Casali
yeah.
Posey? That guy.
This has gone off the rails.
Go for it.
I think the face of the franchise coming back after a year off, a year where he was expected to bounce back from injury, and it was expected to be a big year, and he took the year off. And I think right now he's the most popular Giant who the fans haven't seen in years. So I think that might be the biggest storyline. But you mentioned earlier guys who could have a breakout year, and my mind kind of wandered from Brandon Belt, who has always had potential but could never stay healthy. Brandon Crawford, who had his breakout year a while ago, which he will never, I don't think, ever get back to. But my mind kind of goes to Mauricio Dubon just because he got called up midway through 2019 and then 2020 short season. So I kind of consider that a little bit of a fluky year. This is his first full season with the Giants. So I think that, you get the guy 300-400 at bats. I think he could put together a surprising stat line at the end of the year.
Yeah, I agree. I think Dubon is definitely a guy that's going to be very valuable to their versatility and to their lineup, of course. And, it's interesting. I was going to say Posey too, but I do have a backup because I knew.
You're not that basic.
I'm not that big. Posey's just so interesting.
The low-hanging fruit.
Exactly. Posey's just so interesting to me because we freaked out that he was taking hacks the other day. We're like, oh my God, it's Buster Posey's back. So, if we freaked out with him taking hacks in his first day at BP, we're going to freak out to see what he's going to look like, or we're going to be intrigued to see what he's going to look like that first game he catches. So that Posey hype is not going anywhere. But what I also have a storyline in terms of, the pitching. I know Brooks mentioned starting pitching. You could argue that they don't have a ton of depth, but I think you could argue they don't have a ton of depth and quality, but they have a ton of depth in quantity.
They got a lot of dudes.
Yeah. So Gosman, Cueto, Disclafani, Wood, Sanchez, Webb. We're forgetting about Webb, after the Sanchez trade. And Webb, honestly, it's a big year for him because we're going to have to see him kind of turn on, hit the gas pedal just a little bit, because is he going to be the next Matt Cain, or is he just going to be a guy with a 4.5 ERA? Because he's got to take the next step. He's got a great changeup, so he's got to kind of step it up, in my opinion. I mean, Tyler Beatty's recovering from Tommy John. I don't know if he's going to be ready for opening day. Maybe.
No. I mean, he's projected to come back All-Star break.
Yeah, exactly. So
or no, maybe earlier, right? Didn't they say they're hesitant about putting him on the 60 because he might be ready in late May or something?
Yeah, like a month or two, maybe somewhere.
Okay, yeah, let's just go with that. Yeah. Continue, sorry.
Yeah, so it's interesting because Beatty's a guy that I could see getting plugged into the rotation if you do deal a guy like DeSclafani or Wood at the deadline, and also Caleb Berriger, who that's the right way you say his name. Nobody's going to at me on that one. Berriger. Is a guy that also wants to be stretched out as a starter, and the organization granted him that opportunity. So I think that's interesting. Yamaguchi, we'll see what happens with him. And Nick Tropiano is definitely an interesting free agent signing as well. So there's, that's 10 guys right there. I think maybe 7 or 6 of them are legitimate guys that have a chance at cracking the roster. But I think how they're going to use pitching this season, especially with guys throwing 45, 50 innings only, exclusively last season. So, I can't expect them to, pump the gas and go all the way to, 170 innings. I just don't see that happening. So I see some kind of mixture. I know Tampa Bay is doing kind of a similar thing where they're putting all these innings on a lot of different guys. 13 different guys are going to be throwing a lot of different innings. So that's going to be interesting in itself, but we'll see. Let's go to question marks. And this is a team that is full of them, I think. Taylor, if you had to pick, maybe a question mark, a glaring concern with this team, where would you kind of look to?
I mean, I think there's a few, but just right off the bat, I think you can label Buster Posey as a question mark. I don't want to go back to Posey again, but
big Buster head.
He's the first one that comes to mind. I mean, I don't.
The longest tenured Giant. No, continue.
Yeah, I mean, we don't exactly know what he's going to look like this year. And then I also think about a lot of the other veterans like Belt and Crawford who had decent years last year. Who is that going to translate to this year in a contract year? Evan Longoria, pretty much anyone above the age of 30 is a giant question mark in my eyes.
So
hey,
all
man.
of them.
Hey. You questioning me?
You questioning Brooks, me? Including Brooks.
The entire infield you're directing that to?
Yeah, just adding all of them.
Yeah, Brooks, who is kind of your concern? Big question mark for you.
Probably guys under the age of 30. Just kidding. Hey, those are the injured guys on the team, by the way. I'm just saying. All right. The under 30s. No, I just my question mark. It's such a cop out kind of thing, but it's like there's so many injuries in baseball all over the place, and that's why I've just been so worried about the depth for the Giants, because I want to just have it be an enjoyable year and not just 2 starting pitchers have gone down. Let's see who's backing them up. I like Connor Menez, but is he going to come in here and pitch for 2 months? And then you got some of these non-roster guys. So I was like, get me some more guys, and that was before they got Aaron Sanchez, who I think is very intriguing. And this is kind of where the Giants have been shopping, right? They've been shopping at this buy low, high upside, but there's a ton of question marks on health, recent injuries, guys coming back from Tommy John or shoulder surgery, stuff like that. It's just you're not going to go for the premier guy if you're this Giants team. They're in this weird in between, not quite rebuilding, retooling, but they've been doing this for a while, and they still have these veterans. The whole infield is the oldest infield. It kind of goes to Taylor's. I don't know if it's the oldest infield. It just feels like it, because even adding La Stella as a 32-year-old for a 3-year deal is like, oh damn, okay, so this older infield trend is going to continue. And this might just be a quick tease here, Steven, but we do have a thing that we're going to wrap this on. We're going to talk about Posey, Crawford, and Belt, 3 of the longest tenured Giants. What jersey will they be wearing in 2022? We're going to come back to that at the very end, so don't touch that dial.
Yeah, 100%. That was one of the question marks that that I have, of course. But another question,
pitching depth.
Yes, for sure. One of the question marks that I have is where are some of these guys going to play? Because you have too many complementary players. I mean, I think the only non-complementary player on this team and that's going to surely play against both left-handed and right-handed pitching, who could stand his own against both, is Mike Yastrzemski and Buster Posey. There's 2 of them. And, Posey's a guy who's not even going to, Kirk Casale
he gets days off, though.
Yeah, he's going to get even more since he didn't play last year. So I think, Mike Yastrzemski is the only guy. So, I mean, we saw the platoon in left field worked magnificently with Dickerson and Ruff, but there's no DH. So that's taking away a prime spot. You have a surplus of infielders. Flores and Solano are both right-handed. LaStella's got to play somewhere. Longoria's still hovering over there for a few more years. Crawford's over there at short. Dubon has infield flexibility.
Solano.
Slater. I mean, there's so many position players. I don't even know how the puzzle's going to fit. And I've done numerous mock lineups on the timeline, and I've had trouble with every single one of them. So, Steven Duggar, we've had conversations about. So it's interesting. I just don't know where the pieces fit.
Lamonte Wade, everyone just automatically thinks
Wade, a guy who has more.
Or Lamont maybe, but they think Lamont and Tonelli or whatever. Jalen Davis, they're talking about. He's on the 40-man roster, so he could start. This is a great. I'm so glad you brought this up because this has been racking my brain lately too. I'm like, and everyone's like, we need another outfielder. I'm like, what? Like, what? The Giants got all these guys way long ago. I think it was still 2020 when they said Dickerson, come back, Ruff, come back, because they were good deals, $1 million, $2 million, whatever. And by the way, everyone, I keep seeing in Giants Chatter on Facebook. Shout out Giants Chatter if you're not following. Check those guys out. We talk a lot of Giants. There was a lot of talk about, with this guy coming in, they're just going to cut Darren Ruff. I'm saying cut Darren Ruff.
You can't do that, though. You can't do it.
But, why? Number one, he had, solid numbers in his short playing time, 140 WRC plus, OPS 887, something like that. But they brought him back and a guaranteed, they paid him his salary, $1.25 million. And not only that, because he left to go play in, I think it was Japan for all those years, he still is under team control, arbitration eligible for 2 more seasons after this. So why would you just cut a player like that who's obviously playing well for cheap? I don't know. So anyways, going back to Steven, that was a great point that you brought up there because they have so many guys and it's going to be weird to have a competition outside of Yastrzemski. The whole outfield is kind of like, hey, if you're healthy and you're good, you're playing, So
yeah, and Ruff had an 890 OPS against left-handed pitching, and an 870. So in a perfect world,
good splits.
Good splits. And a guy who I think position flexibility is not on his side. I mean, he's not a great athlete in left field.
He's okay. He's okay in left. He's not horrible.
But I mean, he's just a guy. I mean, if you had a guy like Christian Yelich come in or like a superstar of that caliber, you could do away with Darren Ruff. But this is a team full of complimentary guys, and a guy like him is important. And I just don't even see a fit for him. So, I mean, that in itself, every time I make like a mock lineup of some sort, it's always different the second time I do it. It's incredible.
It's too platoonable. Too platoonable.
It is too platoonable. So Brooks came up with an awesome question here, and it's an interesting one. And it's, if Farhan Zaidi were to trade one guy from the 40-man roster, who would it be? And
before opening day,
Before opening day. And it's such an interesting question. I thought a lot about it. Spring training trades are interesting. I mean, they don't, or at least some of the blockbuster ones never happen in spring training. You might see a guy traded for like a player to be named later. Taylor, any guy before opening day on the 40-man
Buster Posey? What? Are you serious, Taylor? All your thing is Buster Posey.
I think the one that immediately jumps out to me is Donovan Solano. I think
good. That's not mine. So good.
You look at
too easy.
How that went down in terms of his arbitration, how they haggled over like less than $1 million, like 600,000, 700,000 after what he did last year and the year before. It makes me question how much they value him. And then bringing in LaStella, it kind of caught me off guard because I look at Solano and Flores, and you have Dubon, and I feel like the infield was pretty well covered before LaStella, so that kind of made me question how they view the guys who put together some incredible seasons recently. And then the outfield kind of intrigues me because, well, going back to Darren Ruff, I agree, he had, on paper, a nice season, but this season with no DH and Buster Posey back, first of all, his time at DH won't exist because there isn't one, and then with Posey back, Posey's going to play first as well.
Interleague play.
Yeah, right. So I don't know how much of a role there is for Darren Ruff, and yeah, I agree he had a nice season, but where do you play him? And that's how I view him as expendable, even though product-wise he's
tradable.
Yeah, I don't see it much of a fit right now.
Yeah, I can understand that. Brooks, who would you trade? Well, who would not? Maybe not you, but who would righty trade?
No, I personally wouldn't trade this guy.
Oh, thank God you're not in that position to do it. Anyways,
I know. God, jeez. No, I would trade this person just because the Giants aren't using him the way I think they should. His name is Austin Slater. I think why trade a guy who's under team control for the next few years, right? Why not trade a guy that we don't need anymore? These are probably the first reactions people would hear. But Austin Slater, to me, is a guy that I think a lot of clubs value, right? He's a steadily improving player. He's not the youngest. He's definitely not the oldest. He's, I think 28 or something. And even on this Giants team, he's probably going to get like 180 plate appearances this year, maybe. I think that's what they're projecting. And it's like, I know the Giants are just flush with outfielders on the current roster. Coming up in the next year or two, they're just going to have so many. It's just going to be Yaz, and you can maybe pencil in Dubon, and it's just going to be a bunch of extra top prospects coming up. Elliot Ramos to start, right? Hunter Bishop right behind him. A guy like Austin Slater is, I think, tradable because he has value. He has the value that would set off a trade. And what do the Giants lack in 2022 and beyond is starting pitching. It's just like I think I see one. I think I see a starting pitcher. Yes, they'll have tons of money to spend, but that's not really – Farhan's not ready to throw $35 million per year at a guy, even if he is the guy, right? That's just not his style, I don't think. So if he can find a team to part with some pitching for a player like Slater who can play right now, not a prospect that could be somebody, but someone that can rake for your team right now. If you're in contention and you have a double-A stud ace pitcher that's just not ready to come up yet, rotation's already packed, that's the guy the Giants need to go grab. And I think it starts, you want our pitcher? We want, let's see, Austin Slater, and then they go from there. So he's a guy I think should probably be listened to in trade talks.
Yeah, and as much as we were talking about Darren Ruff, I would put Slater above Ruff on a depth chart if I had one. So that's a bit interesting. But
Sure.
Maybe I just thought of this as you were talking. Maybe you partner Austin Slater with a bigger piece and go out and get Sonny Gray, who Farhan Zaidi kind of helped develop there in Oakland. And we know how he likes but I think Gray is a rental at this point, so I don't know if that would be a good idea. But just an idea.
You're on the right track.
Yeah.
I want a guy that's under control for 4 years, and you're thinking, well, who wants to give that up? But it's not a guy. It's even a guy who a former first rounder that is out for the year with Tommy John as of last October, whatever. That's a guy they should be targeting. It shouldn't even be a trade that helps this Giants team. Just, hey, get me another starting pitcher, because next year it's Logan Webb, Tyler Beatty, and Bueller. No, I wish it was Bueller. No. Yeah. So who knows? They need starting pitching next year. So make a trade.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I'll be brief with my answer. I'm just going to say Jason Vossler. He's a friend of the show. he's a guy who I could see trading for like cash or a player to be named later. He was getting major league interest before.
That you treat your friends of the show.
Yeah, he wants him to get a better chance to win.
Well, Tommy LaStella just kind of came in and just,
Yeah. No.
popped in. But, I see Vossler getting big league at-bats. I mean, you mentioned the Pirates earlier. They're dying for help, even though they have Bryant Hayes, who's a pretty good, third base prospect over there already. But, a team could use Jason Vossler. Again, he was getting big league interest. So why not? Why not get like something cash, player to be named later? I mean, or maybe you keep him for depth. I don't know. All right. Hope you guys liked part 1. Part 2 coming up next in a little bit. We will answer your questions. We'll get into some other fun things, even where we see Brandon Belt, Brandon Crawford, Buster Posey. Where do we see them playing in 2022 if we were to pick a uniform for their future? So stay tuned, guys. Again, follow, like, subscribe everywhere you listen, everywhere you watch. It will help greatly. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.